Welcome to Cullman Tribune's 2024 candidate debates. We are here with candidates for Cullman County Circuit Judge. Melvin Hasting is with us. Emily Neeser Johnston opted not to accept our invitation. We will continue with the same set of questions as we would have. Mr. Hasting, tell us a little about yourself.
Yes, sir. Thank you, WC. I just want to tell you I really appreciate Cullman Tribune giving this opportunity for the voters to meet the candidates, to know what we stand for, and maybe convince them why they should vote for us. But I'm Melvin Hasting. I'm a lifelong resident in Cullman. Went to school at Vinemont, graduated from Vinemont, went to school at Wallace. I actually taught Wallace for a little while, and UAB, got my bachelor's degree, and then went to law school at nighttime at Birmingham School of Law. While I was teaching down at Wallace, I was going to school at nighttime. I've had a law practice based in Cullman for 22 years. Even though as based in Cullman, I've tried cases all over the state. I've tried all kinds of cases all over the state. So decided here's another opportunity for me to be on the ballot for circuit court judge. Judge Williams is retiring. She's kind of a forced retirement because in Alabama now the law is once you reach a certain age, you can't be on the ballot for as a judge, any kind of judge, appeals judge, Supreme Court, circuit judges, district judges. So she's reached that age. There's an open seat. So I'm going to give our voters an opportunity to listen to what I got to say and know about my campaign.
Okay, thank you. Let's get to the questions. Question number one, what in your background, education or work experience has prepared you to become a judge?
So my campaign, as y'all probably see, my sign says experience matters. I think campaigns probably need a slogan to kind of go with it. It needs to be a true, genuine slogan. Voters probably want to know why they ought to vote for one person or the other, or support one candidate or another. And this race definitely has played out. The experience issue is major. That's what I hear out there. I knew it was going to be an issue. I've tried cases. I've tried every kind of case you can try in front of a circuit court judge. Not only in Cullman County, I've done them all the counties around. I've probably, at least half the counties in Alabama in 22 years, I've tried a case in front of circuit court. So I got extensive experience in there. That matters because a judge doesn't just sit up there and overrule or sustain objections. I mean, there's a lot of evidentiary matter that comes in. There's a lot of motions that come in that judges rule on. I'm one of 6 attorneys in Cullman County that are certified to handle capital murder cases. I've tried capital murder cases. That's a total different ball game. Capital murder cases, and I think this is very important for people to know, because when someone's charged with capital murder and they're stared down the death penalty, we don't want to put nobody to death that's innocent or not guilty of it. So what happens is the trials are really, really extensive. There's a lot of rulings on it. It becomes a big case. It is a very important case. And then the Supreme Courts in Alabama, you got Supreme Court in the United States, looks at those cases extensively, strictly. We call it strict scrutiny. They scrutinize every single ruling that a judge makes. Any rulings that may affect a person's fairness or whatever else, that conviction will get overturned, and you got to start from day one trying that case again. So I have the experience. I've tried a couple of capital murder cases. I've actually represented, I think, 4 or 5 defendants charged with capital murder. And like I said, we've got some pending in Cullman. But even though the criminal side of circuit court is what most people are concerned about, because everybody wants to save Cullman, circuit judges also do divorces, custody cases. They do workers' comp cases. They do civil jury cases. You do landline disputes, property dispute cases. I've done every single one of them, multiple. So all of that experience combined, if I'm elected, and I really think this is my best shot to be elected, I think people have connected with me. They understand that I really want to be a circuit judge. We have a connection. I'm the experienced candidate. So on day one in January, I can take office. I can sit there and be a circuit judge.
Okay.
That's a long answer, but I had a lot to say in it. I'm sorry.
Question number 2. In fact, it looks like you've already partially answered question number 2. but we'll go ahead and give this to you. What kinds of cases have you tried before a judge, and how did you do?
I've tried every kind. So, and that's a very good question because in each case there are winners and there are losers. I mean, you can't win every case. You base it on the facts, the law. You present it to a judge. There's a dispute. Obviously, one person says one thing, one person says another thing. There's a dispute that the judge has to make a decision on. So when you say fairness, a lot of times people get out in campaigns and say, "Hey, as your judge, I'm going to be fair." Well, one party is going to think you fair. That's the winner. The loser is probably going to think that you're not fair. Impartial is the better word, which means you give everybody an equal opportunity to present their case and to listen to the facts and follow the law, no matter, even if you don't like it. Sometimes you just have to follow the law. You have to be tough, thick skin to be a circuit judge. It's a tough job. It's because you're affecting, your decisions affect people's lives and their livelihood. So I take that seriously. My experience, like I said, I have tried every single kind of case that is in front of a circuit judge. I've been with numerous circuit judges across the state. All of them, a lot of them have different ways they do stuff and approach things. I've learned the goods and the bads from it. So there's not a single kind of case that's from circuit judge that I haven't tried. So I think my experience helps me out a lot with that.
You mentioned impartiality, and that's actually a word in the third question. How does a judge act impartially?
So it can be tough. Okay, so when nobody asked to be in front of a circuit judge, I never want to stand in front of the circuit judge because that means I've probably, well, you committed a felony more than likely, so you don't want to be there. You don't want to be in a divorced child custody situation. I've actually been in front of a circuit judge on a workers' comp case, but we settled that case, and I actually got a car wreck case that's pending where someone had pulled out in front of me, and I got injured pretty good on it. But nobody asked to be in front of a circuit judge. But I think people expect when you are in front of that judge that they're going to hear your side of the story, they're going to hear the other side of the story, and you're going to rule straight up and down every single time the way that it should be ruled. So here's a question. The other night at the forum, there was a question asked about impartiality and recusal and getting out of a case and conflict of interest. And there are some rules that you got to look at. There's some rulings by the Supreme Court if a judge should have a case or whatever else. But here's my view of it. If you're sitting there questioning, do I have a conflict in this case? Is there a side that I take more favorably than the other? Or is there a lawyer that I maybe look like I favor more than the other or whatever else? If there's any issues that you question, should I hear this case? You just get out of it. So to be totally impartial, if you question, should you hear this case, you get out of it. If you feel like, no, I can hear this case and be impartial, that's due. So there's a lot of, I'll give you a good example. I'm a victim of theft. So I've had a lot of stuff stole from me, and even recently. So generally, of course, I'm going to be biased. I don't like thieves. I don't like people stealing stuff from me and stealing stuff from me. So, but if that ever gets to a point where I'm thinking, you know what, I don't like thieves and I'm going to teach you a lesson type stuff, I'm probably not being impartial. If I get to that point, I probably need to get out of the case. So it's the facts of the case, it's the lawyers involved, it's the type of case. There's a lot of stuff you got to think about. But at the end of the day, voters are letting you do a job. You got to do your job.
Question number 4, and this is a piggyback on that one. We all have certain biases, whether they come out or remain in our minds. If you were to be convinced that a defendant was guilty, or for that matter, innocent, at the outset of a trial, how do you still guarantee a fair trial?
So a circuit judge is more or less a referee in a trial. You have a defense attorney and you have a prosecutor that's presenting the case. You don't interject yourself, and that's very important. You can't interject yourself into the case as a judge. Maybe the prosecution's not doing a good job. Maybe the defense attorney's not doing a good job or whatever else. But as a circuit judge, you still got to be the referee. You have a place in that. You sit back and allow it to play out. Now, of course, if it gets out of hand and there's violations happen, you have to stop it because you're the referee. You have to stop it. But that's not my job. And one of the things, like I said, I have tried. I don't know how many criminal cases I've tried. More than 50. I've tried more than 50 in 22 years. Probably more like 75. So I know I can almost read you the jury instructions, and one of the jury instructions in a criminal jury trial, and even in a civil jury trial, the jurors are instructed: you shouldn't look at me, how I act, how I rule as a judge. Try to base your decision on. You are the fact finder. You determine innocence or guilt. If I look like I have favored one side or the other, you need to disregard that. So the circuit judge really does it, even though they may be thinking, yeah, you're guilty of it, or well, they shouldn't be prosecuting this guy. The jury determines that stuff. But now, also, but this is very important as a circuit judge, because it happens every once in a while. It's rare. It's happened to me maybe a couple of times. If the state does not present a case beyond a reasonable doubt, we're talking criminal, if they don't present the case, and you know they don't present the case, you're obligated as circuit judge to find that person not guilty and not let a jury do it. But that's a rare occasion, but it does happen, and it has happened in Cullman.
All right. Question number 5. The Tribune published campaign finance lists this morning. We did it in the last election. We've done it this time as well. And so on that question of campaign finance, what do your donation and expenditure lists say about you?
Probably says I spent a lot of money. I spent a lot of my money on this election. People, I don't know. I'm not a go out, hey, give me money type person. I probably should be, and that way I'd have more money in my bank account, but I don't go around and ask people for money. There are some people that always donates to me. I know who those donors are. I've picked up a few more that's given me money. But, you know, I've had a lot of people, and actually really this last week I've had it. I haven't done my campaign finance for this past week, but I have a lot of people come in, throw me 50 or throw me $100. Usually it's like $100, so this is all I got. But I really appreciate all of that. But I'm not the person that goes out and tries to get the money. I know a group of people that's always going to donate for the other side, and that's fine. But this campaign is mostly me. It's mostly Melvin Hasting. It's my money. I don't know. I guess the voters can decide how that goes. I'm not going to be influenced.
All right. Question number 6. Cases, especially big cases like murder, can drag on for years in the system. Can the process be faster, and if so, how?
So one of the first cases that Champ Crocker, probably the first case that Champ Crocker tried this year as a district attorney or his office, was a 2018 murder case. So in April, I think it was, of this year, last year, 2023, we tried a case from 2018. It's 5 years old. And that person's been sitting in jail for 5 years waiting on their trial. But that victim's family has also been waiting 5 years to get justice and have a trial to find out what happened in that case, what really happened. So there's 30 murder cases. I tell people that, they don't believe me. There are 30 murder cases pending right now, at least 30 in Cullman County. 6 of them are capital murder cases where someone's looking at the death penalty. So if the state chooses to go that route. So those are very important. There's also robbery cases, there's rape cases, there's burglary cases, there's all kinds of very violent cases that are pending in Cullman. Everybody deserves their day in court. But it's the prosecutor's job to get that there. But again, as a circuit court judge, you're the referee. At some point, you got to say, hey, that guy or that lady is sitting in jail for 3, 4, 5 years. They need their case tried. The victims are sitting there 3, 4, 5 years. They need this case. They need closure So there's a lot of stuff. So let's just go back to the murder. You've got investigators. You got to get the forensic pathologists up there from the state. The state, I don't know how many they have, probably 3 or 4, that testifies all over the state, and actually have to do autopsies too. So they have to line up. You have to have the forensics line up. You got to have witnesses. I mean, there's times we're getting ready to go for a trial, and it's a witness problem. Maybe so and so gets sick, or their family member died, or whatever else, and we've had to postpone those cases. So there's a lot to it, but we have got. People shouldn't be waiting 5 years to have their case tried. There's people. Can you imagine this, WC? Some career criminal, because we have a lot of them in Cullman, has broke into your house or your vehicle, stole your stuff, destroyed your house, destroyed your vehicle, and 5 years later you're still waiting to get justice and get some money from him. That's not fair. None of that's fair. So I know Champ has been working hard on trying to get those resolved. I know the judges are pushing to get those things resolved because they see the big picture, but we got to be careful. You can't just get rid of cases to get the numbers down. Everybody's entitled to it. We're just going to have to work harder. So the answer to the question is, I told this yesterday, there's probably going to be a lot of days you can't go home at 4:30. You're going to have to stretch it on out to 8 or 8:30, 9 o'clock. We may have to stretch a jury week over into the next week or something like that. But you're imposing on juries. I mean, if you're a juror, that's a big job. You got a life too. And it's hard to ask a juror to sit there for 2 weeks and listen to a case because they got kids they got to feed, kids got to go to school, they got spouses, they got work, they got obligations too. But it's something that I know is important to everybody, and it's important to everybody now, and it's still going to continue to be important because guess what? I don't know, I guess Champ probably every 3 months has a grand jury there, and he's probably adding another 100 cases so that caseload ain't getting down any. You know what I'm saying? You add more and more cases, so we're going to have to do a lot of work. But everybody's trying it. I know people get impatient. The judges are trying. The prosecution's trying as far as the criminal cases. We just may have to try a little bit harder or look at other avenues.
Okay. Next question. How do you feel about plea deals?
So, as a circuit judge, again, let me step back. You got your own role. So your role is to allow the prosecutor and the defense attorney do what they do. A lot of things go in plea deals. People get kind of aggravated, but you may have a victim that says, "I don't want to deal with this." Or you may have a victim's family that says, "I don't want to relive this." Let's go back to murders. Maybe there's a victim's family that they have 2 or 3, 4 years later, they have moved on. They don't want to relive that. There may have been some material witnesses that can't be there, that's disappeared or died or whatever else. So sometimes the best option for the prosecutor is to do a plea deal. So as long as everything's fair and everything's legal, they know their case. A circuit judge should always stay out of it. You just allow the process to go on. But with that being said, if there's something that's really unfair, or there's something that, of course, if it's illegal, the circuit judge that circuit judge does not have to accept the plea deal. When somebody enters a plea agreement and it's in front of a judge, there's a box in there where the judge either accepts the plea deal or they reject it. 99.9999% of the time they accept it because the attorneys know what the issues are. There's a reason this is pled out, and the judge should not interfere. But like I said, if there becomes a problem with it, then a judge may have to step in. I hope as a circuit judge that I will always be able to trust the attorneys and the process, allow them to do what they need to do, and then me just be the referee.
All right, our next question on mental health. According to Sheriff Gentry, a number of prisoners in the county jail at any given time need mental health services. What is the proper balance between help for the mentally ill and enforcing the law? What would you do as a judge?
So some of the things that we have done in Cullman are accountability courts. The one that's been the longest process is drug court. So drug court's been around for a long time. This person's got in trouble with drugs. It's an opportunity for maybe a first-time offender to come get that, to do some stuff, to address the problems, and to get that out, get that case hopefully dismissed, and them not make that mistake later on. The next thing that kind of came in, phased in a few years ago, was Veterans Court, because we realized, and I say we, because the judges asked the prosecutors, they asked a lot of the lawyers that handles a lot of cases, what are some things we can do? They come up with a Veterans Court, because we realized that sometimes we asked a lot of these vets, you send them over, you teach them to, you really teach them to be killers. I mean, that's what a soldier is. Sometimes you train them to do warfare and to do stuff. You put them in very horrible situations. They see a lot, and then they've got to come home and try to adjust. Some of them can, some of them can't. So what we've realized is, hey, maybe we can help them out. So I'm giving you the long answer, but this is important. So Veterans Court, what they do is they actually have older vets there. Most of them are some of the older vets. We have a couple of the younger ones there too, people that's been there. And if you get accepted into Veterans Court, you have a mentor, which is a vet, which has been there with you. They understand what you're going through, and they try to help them through that process. And Judge Turner does that. He does a good job. It's very, very successful court. So the next thing is, since the state and for whatever reasons decided that we're not going to fund mental health no more, we're just going to throw people in jail that's got mental health problems. The judges has recognized that we need a mental health court. Judge Nicholas has headed that up. He's one that does it. So if we identify a person has mental health problems, and that mental health problem is causing them to do things, I've represented a lady on it. I know exactly a case right now. Her mental health, she was committing a crime, but it really didn't realize she was committing a crime. Her mental health status really affected her. So we have helped move her case through. She gets social services. They're accountable, but there's certain things they got to do. They can't keep on using it as an excuse to get in trouble. They get help at Wellstone and get their case resolved. Most time they get their case dismissed. So the mental health, and Sheriff Gentry's right, there are people over there that's held in jail that we know they have mental health issues. And mental health court is very important, and it's something that I definitely want to get involved in it with Judge Nicholas and help people move through it.
The next question is related to that, and this is a particular controversy that gets debated among people. Should drug addiction and abuse be treated as a mental illness?
So 22 years, I have represented thousands of them, thousands of people charged with drug crimes. So my experience, this is me, this is Melvin Hasting talking what I've learned and what I think. A drug addiction is no different than a smoking addiction or drinking addiction, an eating addiction, whatever else. That person, most of them have something in their life, and it could be an event, it could be a life event, it could be their lifestyle, it could be their childhood, how they grew up. Something in their life, there's a hole there, and I really believe that most people are using drugs to fill that hole. Some people are unfortunate. I know this for a fact. I've personally known people that's like this. Some people get injured, and they get on Lortabs, get on pain pills because they hurt. And you can physically I know that for a fact myself. I caught myself when I had some major back problems. I was taking some Percocets. Then I quit taking them. I mean, I only took them for 2 or 3 days, but I quit taking them. And I got sick as a dog, and I talked to the doctor about it. He's like, "Whoa, Melvin, you're getting physically addicted to them." And he took me off of them, and I didn't take them anymore. That's how fast you can get addicted to a drug. So there are some people that's been in unfortunate situations, either as a child or even as adults, because I've seen adults do this too. They start taking them pills. They don't realize it. They get physically addicted to them, and then they become what we call a druggie. But they have an addiction, and if you can help those people conquer that addiction, that's what the goal is. That's what we try to do. So I don't look down at someone because I've had addictions in my lifetime too. I don't look down at someone that's got it. We try to help them out. All the judges, we know who's there and serious and has got a problem that we can try to help out. There's some people that's just done it, but so they've got a hole. They're trying to fill it with a drug. We got to do everything we can to help them out. But at some point, I guess you have to punish them. They have to be punished as maybe a way to deter them and show them, hey, you can't use it as an excuse. You can't say, hey, I've got a drug addiction, so I'm gonna go steal everybody's, breaking their vehicle and breaking their houses and steal stuff and go pawn it off or sell it and trade it for drugs. You can't let that excuse. That person's definitely got to be punished because they can't use their drug addiction as an excuse for committing other crimes. But if the underlying problem is a drug addiction, we got to do everything we can to help them recognize it, realize it, and hopefully change their life.
Our last question, if a defendant is convicted in a criminal case, how will you sentence? What kinds of things will you consider in making your decision?
All right. So that's a very good question. You must have known what happened yesterday. So yesterday, the Cullman County Bar Judge Nicholas had this set up for us, and Judge Williams was there. All the judges was involved in this. There are some things in Alabama that is called sentencing guidelines. Those it's a sentencing commission that's been formed by the governor and everybody else. It's a statewide thing. It's being forced because these federal lawsuits, prison overcrowding, there's a lot of stuff factored into it. So we had the guy over that come talk to us yesterday and addressing all the issue of prison reforms and everything and stuff like that. There are some things that have changed with sentencing guidelines. I see where they're headed with all this stuff. So property crimes, what we call, theft, stealing, identity theft, debit card theft, burglaries of buildings, breaking and entering motor vehicles, those kind of things are addressed in sentencing guidelines. Violent crimes against somebody like assault or rape or murder or kidnapping, they are not addressed in them. So the judges it is mandatory that you follow these guidelines. So a criminal history it becomes into play in that. So a first-time offender, more than likely, when you follow the guidelines, they get probation. They automatically get probation. A judge has a discretion, so depending on the situation, that person's probably going to get probation because that's what the guidelines say or whatever else. But so they're getting a lot more strict about that. They're making judges kind of forcing them to, you got to go by them guidelines. That's addressing prison population problem that Alabama faces. But now, as far as the victim crimes, you got somebody that's been assaulted, or you got a sex crime, or you've got a robbery case, or obviously a murder case. I think it would be unethical for me to say I'm going to give them the maximum sentence. They're going to jail for the rest of their life. That is unethical for me to do that. That's unethical for any judicial candidate to say that I'm going to do that. You can't do it because all of them, because you're making a promise or a campaign promise to people that's just unethical. It all depends on the facts of the case. Maybe somebody's charged with assault. The jury finds them guilty of assault, but in my heart, I feel like, that person was probably defending themselves, self-defense, or maybe there's defending somebody else. That person shouldn't get the maximum sentence. They shouldn't get the same sentence as somebody that comes out there and decides they're going to beat the crap out of somebody. So each case has its own set of facts. You have to take those facts in consideration, and you have to do it. I mean, people has to. Hey, you're responsible for your own actions, and I think you have to look at all the factors. What's happened since then? Is that person remorseful? What is the victim's family wanting? What can you do within the bounds of law to give that person punishment and go on? But one more factor, if I got a few more minutes, one more factor is very important. I've been a victim of theft at my office. So I've had somebody that worked in my office. My assistant was out. This person took, I called them when they took $2,000 from me. Now, I was really aggravated at that person because they stole that much money, no telling how many thousands from me before I caught them. So that first day or two or three or first month, I was like, heck yeah, you're going to go to prison. I'm going to make sure your butt goes to prison and teach you a lesson. 6 months later, I'm sitting there thinking, you know what? If that person's sitting in prison, I still lost my $2,000. I guess I can get some satisfaction out of them sitting in prison, but I'd really like to have my $2,000 back. So that person didn't go to prison, but they wasn't doing what they're supposed to do. So Judge Williams, I think it was, revoked that person's probation. Matt Gentry, as the sheriff, put him in a work release. That person went to work. Guess what? I got my $2,000 back. So I think there are a lot of victims out there of like thefts and breaking into motor vehicles, all that stuff. You know, the impulse is let's put them under jail and throw them under jail. But if you're the victim in the case, it feels pretty good to get your money back. And setting them at, even though we got to protect people's constitutional rights, that is still important. Setting, hey, restitution, you're going to pay $20 a month, and I know you owe $20,000 to this person that you just destroy that much property from them, and they're out $20,000. $20 a month is not going to get it. A defendant shouldn't walk. There's somebody that's clearly guilty of stealing from you shouldn't walk into a courtroom dressed in their Guess jeans and their nice clothes and $200 shoes and say, Judge, I can't afford to pay over $20 a month. That you took somebody else's property. You ought to be the one more or less suffering, not that poor victim over there that had the property done. So there's a lot of factors to take consideration how you sentence people and what you do with them.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Hasting. As we finish up here, if there's one more thing you'd like people to know as we conclude.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. So WC, let me tell you, my campaign is experience matters. That's very important, and it's so true, and it's so genuine. And I tell this story because this is true. This is why experience matters. If you're a victim in a case and somebody is tried in circuit court and they're convicted by a jury, that person gets an automatic appeal. So that case goes to the Court of Criminal Appeals. It can go as far as the Alabama Supreme Court. Them appellate courts, the only thing they look at is the court's rulings. Was that person given a fair trial? Was the evidentiary rules followed? Was there mistakes made by the judge that allowed things to happen that affected that person's that person's trial where they didn't have a fair trial? So they don't they don't look at the facts. They don't retry the case. They're totally looking at what did the judge do, and that's dealt with by briefs by the attorney general and the defense attorney. So what happens is, if you don't know what you're doing and you make mistakes as a judge, and all of them do, they're all human, but if you make them big mistakes that you shouldn't make, you'll have somebody waiting for a trial, a victim, waiting for a trial 3-4 years, 2, 3, 4 years. Hopefully we can cut it down. But they finally get justice. The case gets tried. The person gets found guilty. The judge makes the wrong rulings. And then that poor old victim gets that phone call from the DA saying, I'm sorry to tell you this, but there was a lot of rulings that was not done right. The Alabama Supreme Court has reversed that conviction. We have to start all over again. So that person that just got justice now, and listen, appeals don't happen overnight. Some of them take 2 years. So you've waited 4 years, got your trial, waited 2 more years, just get that phone call saying we're going to have to retry this case again. So can you imagine being a mom, a dad, a brother, sister, husband, wife? Let's go back to the murder victims of somebody that got murdered, and you finally got justice. The person that did it has got found guilty. And there's a lot of mistakes made in that trial, or it could be one major mistake made in that trial. It gets reversed, then you have to start all over again. That's not fair. It's not fair to the defendant. It's not fair to the victim's family. It's not fair to the state because we spend thousands of dollars. They spend thousands of bucks to prosecute people. So that's when experience matters. I can see it on day one. I don't know exactly what day in January you take office, but as your circuit judge, on day one, I can put on my black robe, I can sit in that judge's seat, and I can make rulings because I've been there. I understand what it means to be a circuit judge. I'm ready to be a circuit judge. My experience puts me there. That doesn't mean that I'm perfect. I'm going to make mistakes, but hopefully the mistakes that I make will be very, very limited. It's not going to affect people's trials, whatever else. I've been doing this 22 years. I don't know how long Judge Nicholas and Judge Williams been doing it, but we still learn stuff every single day. Every day when we go to court, there's something that comes up, and they'll say, "Well, I didn't realize that," and I'll say, "Well, I didn't realize it either until I read the law." So it is a learning process. Law evolves. There's new legislation that comes out every year. There's new rulings come out every year. You got to be on top of your game, and if you're not in court every day, you can get lost, and the job can get too big for you. This job is not too big for me, and if people will give me an opportunity and vote for me on March the 5th, because that's when the election is going to be decided, March 5th. There's no more elections after that. If you give me the opportunity, I promise you, you will not be disappointed. I'm sincere about this. I love Cullman County. I love our circuit courts. I love our judges. I love everything about it, and I want the opportunity to use my experience to do the best job for Cullman County, and I definitely appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.